everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I am going to be talking about what God has been teaching me in quarantine. First off, I will be talking about what I've been doing to stay connected to God in quarantine. And what I've been doing is watching sermons, watching church on Sundays, and I've been doing Bible studies on my YouVersion Bible app. Some of them have been by myself, some of them have been with my friend Becca. That is what I've been doing. So just wanted to talk about a few things that I have specifically learned, or things that have stuck out to me in things I've watched or read, all of the above. So first off, I want to talk about things that I've learned from the Crazy Faith series from Transformation Church. So the first one is that faith is like a muscle. This basically means, like any muscle in your body, you have to work at it to get it toned and defined and make it useful for when you actually need it. And that's the same thing with faith. If you're not staying connected to God every single day, when you hit a valley, it's going to be even harder to spend time with Him and want to have that time with Him. Because if you're learning more about God and you're understanding that He is the most important part of you, when you're in that valley, you're gonna question Him and you're gonna feel trapped. But if you're constantly doing that, you're gonna understand that God is still with you, and that even though you're in a valley, He's still there. He's still giving you grace. He's still supporting you. He's still loving you as much as He did when you were on the top of your mountain. And the first thing I've really learned, or had it stuck out to me with the Crazy Faith series. The second thing is that even Jesus had doubts. But the important thing with that is that when He did have the doubts, He went straight to the Lord to pray about those doubts. And He reminded God that it's not His will, not Jesus's will, but God's will. And we're going to read that in Luke 22. Luke 22, 39 through 42. Here it is. Okay. Jesus went out as usual to the Mount of Olives, and His disciples followed Him. On reaching the place, He said to them, "Pray that you will not fall into temptation." A really loud truck just went by. Jesus went out as usual to the Mount of Olives, and His disciples followed Him. On reaching the place, He said to them, "Pray that you will not fall into temptation." He withdrew about a stone's throw beyond them, knelt down, and prayed, "Father, if you are willing, take this cup from me, yet not my will, but yours be done." Basically, He was reminding His disciples, you need to pray so that you don't fall under temptation of the enemy. And so basically, Jesus went to the Mount of Olives to pray, to remind Himself with God's presence that it's not Jesus, but it's the Lord's will that must be done. And so that's a reminder to me that God has a purpose for me, and it's not what I think my purpose is, it's whatever God's purpose is. So even if I'm starting to doubt the Lord, I need to be reminded that it's not my will, but it's his. It was very humbling to know that Jesus, being a human being, he doubted the Lord. He doubted his Father, because just like anybody else, I've doubted God. I'm sure you have doubted God. And so this passage was just a good reminder that if you have any doubts, if you're questioning God, or you're struggling with what God's purpose might be for you, it's a good reminder to pray about it and go back and be like, Lord, remind me that it's not my will, but it's yours. Another thing is that this one I really like, especially in a time like this. The place of your greatest storm might be the same place of your greatest blessing. And I want to say again that none of these words that I have written down or read off of this notebook are my words. They're specific ones that came from the sermon that I was watching. And this was with Matthew 14, verse 22 through 29. Immediately, Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowd. After he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night, he was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from land. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went out to them, walking on the lake. When the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I, do not be afraid." "Lord, if it is you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got out of the boat, walked on the water, and came towards Jesus. The important things to note from this passage, again, it was Matthew 14, 22 through 29. Jesus made the disciples get onto the boat. So Jesus sent them into the storm. And then a note I have here, once he went to the mountainside by himself to pray, he was spiritually preparing to walk on water. So something that they stated in the sermon was that Jesus was human. So this was like a miracle to see him walk on water. It's not a practical thing that any human can just go do. So they specified that he specifically went to pray because he was spiritually preparing himself to walk on water. Peter walked on water. So if we're reminded by that middle portion, they were sent on the water in a boat into a storm. They didn't know there was a storm when they got on the boat, but there was going to be a storm. And that's the important part, because sometimes the place of your biggest storm is going to be a blessing to you. So if you are, this situation, for example, it might be a big storm for you. It might be ruining your mental health, your job stability, your financial abilities. It also might be your greatest blessing. For me personally, like I said, my senior year is all screwed up. Basically, everything was just flipped on its head. A huge blessing within all of this is that I've really seen how much taking like the 30 minutes and spending my time with the Lord, with reading my Bible, doing a devotional, praying, how much that really impacts my day and how important that has become in my life. And so it's a blessing to me. It's a positive outlook. And so even during your storm, there's positive things going on in your life. You just have to search for them. The last thing is from an Instagram Live. This Instagram Live was so good. I don't even know who the person is who was running it, because it's not my church. It's not, I don't know these people. But he said, we were going through 1 Thessalonians 5 verses 16 through 18. So it says, rejoice always, pray continually, and give thanks in all circumstances. Rejoice always, pray continually, give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Christ Jesus. So basically, this entire Instagram Live was about those 3 verses. We talked about rejoicing always and how you have the choice to rejoice always, and it's with, like I was just saying, it's finding the positivity within your circumstance. Pray continually is really the one I want to talk about, because I have always been like, how do people pray 24/7? Like, who does that, really? They talked about this, about how basically how people question it, like me, like, how do people pray 24/7? Like, I don't get that. And he explained it as praying continually is having the constant awareness that God is with you. And so, and then also that it's a constant two-way conversation with the Lord, and it's ongoing open conversation. And so you have the option to talk to God throughout your entire day. He is ready. He is there to have a conversation with you. You just need to take the choice to acknowledge him throughout your day. So an example they gave was, if you go have coffee with a friend, or you're spending an entire day with your friend. So you wake up and you go get breakfast or coffee with them. Then you go out to Target and you go shopping a little bit. And then you go home and you sit and you just chat. Then maybe you go to dinner or make dinner at home. And then you watch a movie, and then they head home for the night. Throughout the entire day, you're most likely not talking to them that entire time. But what they mean by praying continually and having constant awareness is that throughout that entire day, throughout all of those moments, you're acknowledging the person. You're acknowledging the fact that they're sitting and having coffee with you, especially during a movie. You're most likely not talking throughout the entire movie, but you're acknowledging the presence of the person, of your friend, sitting there and watching the movie with you. And so that was really like the biggest thing that I have learned from everything that I stated. And it was from an Instagram Live, that praying continually is just a constant awareness of God with you throughout your entire day. So whether I'm doing laundry, whether I'm watching TV, doing homework, cleaning the house, it's the constant awareness, the ability to have the ongoing conversation is what the praying continually means. So I thought that was really cool. And then the last part is give thanks in all circumstances, for this is God's will for you in Jesus Christ. So basically, it's stating that everything that God wants for you to do is to rejoice always, pray continually, and then give thanks in all circumstances. Give thanks everywhere. There's always something to be thankful for, even if you are in that greatest storm that we were talking about. So, I hope all of this was helpful for you. If there's something you want me to dive deeper into, or if there's another verse that you would want me to look at, or a sermon suggestion that you have, put it in the comments below. I would really appreciate that. I would also really like if you wanted to comment on something that you've been learning, that's something that God has been teaching you through quarantine. I'd really love to hear about that. Any prayer requests as well, place them in the comments below. I hope you all have a great week. And yeah, don't forget to hit the like button, thumbs up. Really supports my channel, really helps it out. And then don't forget, if you're not subscribed already, to hit the subscribe button. And don't forget to always be the light.